Todd is the one that's sitter.
Donna ran out of town.
Donna ran out of town?
Yeah.
I know. Like 6 miles out of town. I think she's trying to tell us something.
Say what?
For TAC, we need how many people? 7? Megan? I do remember. On a foundation meeting.
Yeah. TAC, TTC is light. TAC.
Yeah, because 50 pounds of
Yeah.
So as soon as if Dee or Jack get here, which Dee said she's coming, then we'll have quorum for both.
Well, we have a quorum for the
TAC.
TAC. At the moment, TTC is kind of light. Well, there is no reason why we can't start, is there? Yeah, well, let's start.
Well,
Let's.
we can't vote like
Right.
on,
Which is towards the end.
no, approval
Oh,
of
minutes
agenda
and-
or anything like that. You can't, minutes you can't do. There's not a quorum here.
Oh, because it's a joint meeting, we can't approve the agenda.
And
Gotcha.
I mean, if we're going back and forth, it's gonna be kind of
Well, no, that's not gonna work.
financial report, all that, nothing can be voted on. Somebody just came in. There's the door, yeah.
There's the doorbell. Twice.
Sometimes it just rings. I didn't.
Dee.
Hello, welcome. Okay, now we have a quorum for both groups, so we can start with the pledge, if you would join me. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you for that. So what we have tonight is a joint meeting of the Tourism Advisory Council and the Tourism Tax Council. And you have probably gotten electronically and also on paper an agenda. And if you would take it just a second to peruse that, we will
I'm gonna do a roll call.
we'll approve that after a roll call.
Sarah Menard.
Here.
Dina Kreitler. Donna Rash. Kelly Follett.
Here.
Candy Sue Mahurin.
Here.
Laura Oliver.
Here.
Jack Kenning. Nicole French. Here. Susie Johnson. Here. You have a quorum. And then I'm gonna do TTC. Mike Follett. Lawrence Myers.
Here.
Nicole French. Here. Jack Kenning. Dee Patel.
Here.
And Susan Johnson.
Here.
Do you have to take separate minutes or can they all be in?
Me and
Sometimes.
Happy and I talked, they're gonna be presented together.
Okay. Because I was going to say that's just going to make your task ever so
They're
difficult
gonna be together.
tonight. Yeah, okay. So to the business at hand, we can entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we have a joint meeting of the Tourism Advisory Council and the Tourism Tax Council. And we also have minutes from 2 groups that met at the same time in January. Does TTC have a set of,
They have their own.
everybody has their own minutes? Okay. Okay, let's take them in order. We have the Tourism Advisory Council minutes from January 19, 2021. And, I mean, I don't see anything that needs changing or correcting. If anybody on the TAC does, let us know. And if not,
I'll second.
a second, and those on the TATC can vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And there are also minutes from the TTC, yes?
Make a motion to approve them.
Motion to approve, is there a second? Okay, TTC, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you for that.
And TTC is financial also,
And, okay,
which they may want to review and have any comments on.
all right. TC has a financial report.
The first part of that shows the lodging tax receipts for the first few months of this year, which are about on pace with a typical year. I think I calculated that for the aldermen last week. Being right about what we expected for with the way things are at the moment. And then the spending after that includes, on the printing, the sheer color printing was for the rack cards, 4-color rack cards. The number was higher than originally we were told by CTM, but still within $12 of the other bid, which came in from Washington, Missouri. And so I went ahead and sold them to go ahead and print, and CTM, with their rack card program, usually finds a way to save us some dollars on that end of things. So the cards were delivered to CTM, which are just waiting for us to say, go ahead and distribute with the contract that will be before us tonight. I think we still have one other printing item on that, the bill for the, I think it's the fold-out card for the downtown map guides yet to come in. But otherwise, for the year, I think we are looking at a balance of $13,000 on our budget for Tourism Tax Commission. So we have not spent a whole lot out of there yet this year. Are there any questions with the financial report?
Offhand, do you know how do we compare this year with the number of rooms as we did last year?
Well, not
With
sure
the
about
closing
rooms.
of the inn.
Yeah, I don't know about rooms per se, but the lodging tax is based on the 2% for every overnight stay. So the numbers from year to year compare on that chart there with regard to how many occupied rooms there are. As far as rooms available, I've not done a calculation. I'm not sure if we have one in-house of all the rooms at different places in town.
Okay.
Should be something we should track down, especially to monitor the growth of it or shrinkage or whatever happens.
Okay, any further questions about the TTC financial? Okay, I don't think you have to approve those, do you? Well, you can't change them, I mean, they are. Oh, okay. Is there a motion to approve the TTC financial?
Make a motion to approve it.
In a second? And all those in favor? Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, I gave you guys a 4-page report that, well, includes not only the director's report, but some of their notes for old business and new business that we'll be getting to later on. There's a couple items in the tourism director report. The first part there summarizes our current ad campaigns related to state grants. We have actually 5 different things going on out there in the spring, utilizing state funds. One is the Facebook campaign that launched a couple weeks ago. It's a little It's more conservative spending than the one we did in the fall, and it's spread out over a little bit longer period of time. I think in the fall we did $27,000 over 2 months. This is about $9,000 over 4 months. So it'll be a more consistent and not quite the big surge of traffic through our website and through our Facebook campaign. But it's a click-to-site campaign and then remarketing for those who show interest in visiting here. And we also will be doing, launching a couple other initiatives through MMG 2.0, which is another state grant program that includes a digital display ad campaign that will be operated by Missouri Life using geofencing, keyword targeting, those kind of things. And then we'll be having a television ad campaign through WSIL TV in Carbondale. That'll hit the Cape Carbondale Paducah market. So we're working on providing them with the materials that they'll need to put that together. And then also radio commercials, again, with KMOX and KEZK in the St. Louis market. I looked at some St. Louis TV stations at that same time period. With the SIL, we're able to get 30-second ads compared to 15-second ads, and more of them that we can plug in as opposed to the St. Louis market. Some of which wouldn't even put us, they'd be more digital, or they wouldn't be on TV for $8,000. So hopefully those are campaigns that'll help us get the word out this spring. It also allows us to hold back on some of our own local match monies, local monies for marketing into the summertime. Let's see. So last week there were 2 state tourism meetings that took place. Both of them, they introduced a new character. I don't know if you've seen those on your Facebook or through other media, but they have a campaign about That's My Mo, with a character that's portrayed by an actress who shows the kind of variety of what the state has to offer. And it was a pretty sharp-looking campaign. Again, I've already seen it on my Facebook feed, so they're putting it out there in a lot of places already. The state also is going to conduct a survey of people's perceptions of Missouri. The first time they've done that in quite a while, to kind of help them inform their future campaigns. They had some data that the weekly room occupancy rate in the state of Missouri from March through December was down 41.4% from the previous year, 2019, for the year. And then obviously they had that big drop in March, April, and then by the end of the year it's back up to about 26% down per week, over week to week. Locally, I had, as mentioned, gave the data to the alderman last week. We didn't see that much of a drastic drop in room and our lodging tax. Obviously it was down a fair amount, but not to this extent. Probably the big cities, I'm sure, got hit harder by the people not going to hotels. The visitor volume, the data here of the state put out their numbers showing we've been over 40 million visitors for the last 5 years in the state, and then last year with the pandemic it dropped down to 28.2 million. So their number fell by 35%. Our numbers fell more drastically, but on our end we actually have, it's measuring Welcome Center visitors, and the Welcome Center was closed for 2.5 months last year, so I'm not sure how the state collected their data. They consider in-state travel of 50 miles to still be a visitor. So if we had the Welcome Center open that time frame, obviously we didn't have visitors, so our numbers there took a sharper drop than the state's. I do have our Welcome Center visitor data on the second page at the very bottom right. That's our monthly totals in terms of visitors for the last 6.5 years now, or 6+ years. We're kind of hopefully springing back a little bit towards the end of last year. The numbers began to be comparable to the year before, and they've been that way for about the last 5 months. And hopefully, I know the weather kind of knocks things around a little bit in the wintertime, but hopefully we'll be at a spot this spring to be able to welcome some large, typical crowds. And I have put on here also a list of events that are so far on the calendar. There's some things I need to add in here still, but just to kind of give you an idea for scheduling purposes of what's going to be taking place. I've shared those with the merchants as well, and any other stakeholders I can think of to get it out to, so that they have an idea what is coming up for events. And on the attractions part of this page 2 report here, Felix Valley site reopened for the winter hours last week. So that's the first time they've been open in quite a few months. When did you guys close to the public for tours? Do you know? It's been a while though. So.
December, I believe.
Yeah. So they're back open again. French Colonial America is putting in their exhibit on the Battle of Fort San Carlos that they'll be opening up in May, and so they're going to be a little bit restricted on group tours in the month of April, which we are having some arrangements made. We've had 3 or 4 groups call in to make arrangements in the month of April, mostly coming in that week of, we have one coming in April 12th, we have 2 on April 16th, and another one April 23rd, and I think there's some additional ones coming in as well. So those are starting to perk back up again also. The Guyboard Valley, I think, should be noted that what they did in the wintertime was make themselves available on demand for tours, and that was especially helpful on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays when there were no attractions for people who came to town that were open. So a lot of people this winter, the traffic we've seen are specific. They want to be at the state park or the national park. They want to get the stamp, and they want to be able to see something along those lines of the historic structures. Well, if they're coming on Tuesday or Wednesday in December, January, February, there might not have been something open for them. So we were able to call Mickey or Suzanne up there, and they were able to open up the house pretty much on demand to meet that need for people. And then I have on here kind of an update from Chris Collins at the National Park Service, because they have closed on some transactions with the state in terms of transferring properties over to the National Park Service, including the Kern House and formerly the Creel House. They're calling it the Wilhock property. And then the Zarinelli one mentioned here is a vacant lot there that's kind of between the Beckett House and the Creel House, where I guess there used to be a house in there at some point that was taken down over the years. Not to be confused with the other Zarinelli property over there. And then they do have a new ranger, Claire Casey. She came in today to do her onboarding, so that will give them 2 permanent park rangers on their staff effective this month. And as he mentions, they're planning to have additional 3 rangers and another maintenance worker and other temporary employees this summer. So their presence will be certainly a lot greater this year than it has been. Any questions about that information?
Do you know what they're going to do for the summer for the Amarillo and the Green Tree? Are they going to open them?
Well, the Green Tree they won't take possession of for maybe a couple more months. He's hopeful. I've heard of the condition of that house is pretty good in terms of being able to do things inside of it. I'm not sure about the access part of it at the moment, but I think they believe they could get that up and running fairly quickly for tours. The Amarillo is slated for some roof construction this summer at some point. So they're going to let the tours that are coming in April go through the Amarillo house. But I know at some point this year they're probably going to close that down. They are planning to do the walking tour program again, probably working with the partners this year as well. Any other questions?
I looked at that Missouri, the tourism site, and it's clever. That's my MO. That's my MO. It struck me that it's almost overwhelming. There's so much information there. I mean, it's really hard to look at it. It's hard to navigate it. There's too much information.
Yeah.
There's too much good about Missouri, I guess. I don't know, but it's clever. It's and there is an actress, and she's in costume in a lot of different venues, and it's a clever ad. But man, it is loaded. It has a lot of stuff on it.
Yeah, I think I know one's kind of an overview ad of here's all the different things. And I think they're gonna have more targeted things, and it probably depends on, like I said, with social media, if you're interacting with certain things, it's probably gonna know your interests and then target that ad for, if you're into sports, if you're into the cultural opportunities, if you're into hiking, recreation, they'll probably have those kind of little targeted shorter ads play out as well.
Okay, thank you. And there are probably a lot of things we can add to the calendar as we go along.
Yeah. Kind of put out there to help people plan.
Right.
When
Right.
it could be crowds, and if they're also planning events or.
Yeah,
to
and
supplement
the
those.
Gilmore House will open April 1st. Okay, under, well, we have a little bit of old business, even on Toby's report on the top of page 3. And there was discussion about placement of signs, and one has been put up. And I know Chris and the NP National Parks are working on signage for downtown and how to get a walkway, how to get people from St. Mary's Road to downtown. And I would just throw this out there for whomever, for Happy or the mayor. There needs to be, and maybe this is county property, the new parking lot on Market Street needs a sign indicating that Market Street is one way, because I saw this happen. Well, you probably have too.
Every day.
As people pull out, they turn right and go past the old brick again.
Two signs.
Yeah.
There's 2 signs.
There are 2 signs.
One way.
Are there
There
signs
have been
there?
2 signs.
Okay.
There's signs.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, well, it doesn't stop them from going the wrong way down Merchant Street either, but,
I actually did a physical count of people that turned out of that parking lot one way from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Sunday before I went into work, and I counted 17.
yeah, yeah.
It's not just the parking lot though, they turn from Second Street and come up.
And come up, oh yeah, well, they turn from Main Street
Yeah,
probably.
Main Street all the
We
time.
need to
Yeah.
turn traffic.
Well, if they have an RV, they need to turn someplace because they're not gonna make it into the trestle if they're headed south on Main, yeah.
One-way signs was-
Or onto St. Mary's Road, yeah. Yeah, but I just saw somebody passing the old brick going the wrong way and thought, I wonder if there's a sign on that new parking lot.
Every day.
Yeah,
Well, the one sign that I know in the past, the Tax Commission talked about signage related to water park traffic. And so the solution that Happy looked into, and Gary Roth produced a sign out there that is almost a cheap solution in terms of not costing money to erect a billboard out there, as long as it falls within the guidelines for standards and points people to I-55 if they need to go that way, or to the downtown district if they need to want to check things out that way. So
and that's a good thing, that's a good idea, yeah.
there's still some other opportunities. I know the water park's doing, this year they're putting some digital signage in with their menu boards and that kind of thing. And we are going to sponsor one of the plastic cup things. They do the Thirsty Thursdays, where they have different sponsors rotate on the cups. So if you get a drink there, your business logo is on the cups, and they do, I guess, 14 weeks of that, where they have those out there. So we grabbed 1 week of those. I wasn't too sure about the other opportunities they have out there at the moment, but I'm sure in the future they'll have some other signage things going on that we could look at too.
All righty.
I don't know, with the next thing on old business has to do with the TTC, TAC bylaw changes. I know
Right.
we're going to wait on that till we had more people for the discussion, or?
Well, I mean, what do we think about that? I like the idea of combined meetings, and I don't know, do the bylaws need more, do we need to beat them up more? That might be a question for Happy.
I have them drafted. If you want to beat them up more, that just means I'll have to draft them again, but whatever you all think. What we're looking at is if we can narrow this down to 9 people that can attend, 5 people that are part of the voting block, Well, we want to keep the numbers up so that we have more influence, more input from residents for the tourism part of it, because we just feel that we don't want to just have 5 people. And I don't think we're going to change the TTC as much as I was looking at. That'll be more of a gentle change. But we need the input for marketing to help Toby with what we're trying to accomplish with our tourism, with our advertising.
So do we need to vote on bylaw changes from both
What I'm looking
entities?
at, what we need to find out is if there are not going to be any more changes, then we need to have the groups get together, probably individually, and approve those bylaw changes, and then look at that combination group. You'll be voting on that type of system. Both groups will be voting to combine it into one group, and this is what that group will be. But you probably need to do it individually so that it can be discussed internally. And if you don't, you don't. If you do, you do, and then we work together to put that together.
It's been a while since those were sent to us. So since they were sent, were there any other changes or revisions made?
Nobody contacted me.
Okay.
We'll send them back out. I'll get the dust off of them and get them back to you. Yep.
I think it'd be smart to move forward if no one had any objections or input previously.
Yep.
Well, we probably should set a target date for, and as far as I can't speak for the TTC, the TAC, we could probably do it electronically. If we had anything, we could float around emails, could we not? I looked at them and I like the changes. I mean, I think I went on record as saying I like the idea. But we ought to set a target date that we can.
You can set it for your next meeting. You can set it 2 months out if you don't want to meet again for a couple months. Because TAC doesn't meet as often as.
Yeah, we're not, TAC is not scheduled to meet, but we could.
It probably wouldn't take too long, I'm guessing.
I don't think it probably would take 10 minutes.
We can look at April then? Or?
Yeah, why don't we look at a possible meeting in April and deciding yay or nay?
Is it possible to send an email to everyone in TAC and confirm they can be here in April, so we make sure we have a quorum, so we don't kind of keep
Right,
putting it off?
right.
And if for some reason we don't have a quorum for April, we'll set it
Then
for
we
May.
won't, then we won't meet,
Yeah.
right.
But I don't think we should wait a whole quarter to do that.
Yeah, I don't
think
either. I don't
we should
either.
do it sooner. if
Megan,
possible.
can you send an email on the, do we like, what April date do we like?
If you don't
If,
stick with what we usually do, there's
I
gonna
think we
be
should,
conflicts.
no, I think you need to stick with what we usually do.
So you're gonna look at April, April 20th is what we're looking at.
Let's do that.
And that's a meeting for here.
Right. Or it could be a Zoom meeting. I mean, Megan could send a Zoom link, I think, if we want to do that. Anybody wanted to Zoom it?
I think the meeting structurally would look similar to this, where we review a lot of information and discuss input on things, and then have votes that TTC only would end up being able to take action on with their portion of things. I know we talked with TTC about the possibility of making it more related to event support and sponsorship. And I know the feedback I've got from different places hasn't been as supportive for that idea for different reasons, just different political reasons that could come up and things like that would make it for difficult decisions. Whereas at the same point, this time people can still come forward and, if they've got a plan for an event and they've got a plan for advertising and marketing it in a way that will bring people to town and put them in hotel rooms, and that's something they can bring still and pitch, like the holiday Christmas festival is something that the TTC has supported in the past, and events like that could still come forward and seek that kind of support. Just not the way we Might have pictured it a few months ago.
Okay.
Next on the list is Sarah brought up the idea of some tourism priorities.
I did, and I got some sort of nice feedback, I think. Better river access, that's gonna be perennial. And I don't know that this body can do anything about it. I mean, I think it has to be the city, the lime kiln, the property owners, the railroad, to make Little Rock Landing look a little more presentable. It's really pretty ugly. And the marina, that's not even in the city limits. I mean, that's gonna be a thorn in somebody's bonnet forever. But the tourists frequently ask, where can we go see the river? And it's just embarrassing to send them any place. Like, well, go to the park and you can look down.
Yeah. Isn't there a way the city could lease access to the marina or something like that?
Why? That would be my first question, is why would we want to?
Well, it's a lot better looking than the ferry.
Yeah.
The ferry is an embarrassment.
Right. But
I mean, the roads half covered with water, it's just a mess.
It would depend on if we have to maintain that stretch of road, which would run from that triangle all the way up to the gravel area where you can turn around. We could talk to them about that, but I know there's some issues with that road, that there's some sloughing that's beginning on one of the edges, and that's going to be costly to fix. At this point, it's a private road maintained by, I think, either the property owners or the county.
So what's the
Solution.
To get the solution, it would be to get the IDC or somebody to find a developer to come in and buy the property and develop it.
That's the problem with the property. There's like
There are too many
generations
owners.
of land owners now, and
Right.
it's in such terrible shape, and there's been some progress on getting a group together to do something with it, and there has been some things done, but it's just a boondoggle. I think you'd be better off trying to make improvements to the ferry landing, to be honest with you. I think even if you're looking for what the talk has been is river access, and a lot of it is for hopefully one of these days these river tours and bringing a boat up here instead of Chester.
Uh-huh.
I think your best bet is the ferry landing.
I agree,
But
I
it's,
agree, yeah.
Like Lauren said, it's tough to get to, and there again, you got challenges with the railroad and access, and it's just it's tough. And I think what we're going to have to do also, folks, is we got some things in the mix here where people, and it's going to happen sooner than later, is with Fish and Wildlife, we're going to be having access to the levee up there, and there's talk that's going to be, we're waiting now, where there's signage going to be going up, a parking lot going in where people can go up there. You'll be able to see the river and possibly one day access the river from there, so.
I think what you're talking about is more vehicle access rather than walking, because the Fish and Wildlife is going to be a pedestrian access only.
Right.
Mhm.
So.
But they will have a parking lot at the bottom.
At the bottom, yeah.
But you'll have to walk up on
Walk
top
up.
of the levee and then walk down. But there'll be foot access or path access to the river.
I get that question all the time too.
Yeah,
Go see the
yeah.
river.
Yeah, and the marina property, there are too many owners, and they're obviously not interested in doing anything with it at this moment.
And the city can't annex it.
And it's not in the city limits, yeah.
We could annex it, but
Well, it would
it
probably
costs a small fortune if we annex you'd have to put, I heard put sewer lines and the process of the access is a raised road, and it's troublesome. And then you run the opportunity too that was designed to get all the mud out of it. Well, that's several $1 million to do that. And on the end of it too is where that's at, there's not a lot of good access to see the river there either. You can park up there and see out at the river, but if you go down that mud hole down in there, I don't even know who owns that. There's barges fleeted down there, so it's just a tough one. So
Could the federal government help us annex that, since the national park's right across the street?
Federal government doesn't have jurisdiction on something like that.
yeah.
But they could get money, grants,
Yeah.
or something.
If there was grants for that type of improvement, They're looking more for commercial rather than recreational at this point.
So basically, the city has no long-term plan for access to their,
Not there.
not anywhere.
Well, it would be through Fish and Wildlife. I mean, vehicle traffic or boat traffic, fishing, that, no, we don't. Well, fishing would be, again, back up with the Fish and Wildlife.
Happy and I were talking today about some potential improvements on the small scale, at least to the landing area.
The ferry landing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that, I mean, a little bit would help. I mean, it is really not very attractive.
The railroad, they keep raising the railroad tracks, and it's trapping all the water, so that half the street's underwater. I just drove down there the other day, it's awful.
It always looks like it just came out of a flood.
Yeah,
Yeah, it does, it does.
You know, like we've
Even
never
the-
ever cleaned it up from the last, you know, from 93.
Even right there by the sign that says, "Welcome to Missouri." It's
Yes,
Yeah.
you know, driftwood and brush piles and.
It's rustic.
it's embarrassing.
People like that.
Very rustic, yes it
It
is.
is very
Yeah.
rustic, yeah.
The railroad has blocked the culverts that allow the water off that road. We have talked to MoDOT, they have contacted BNSF to get those unplugged. And if, they'll have the muscle to do it. We've already asked prior to my being here to clean those out, and they didn't do it. So now we're hoping that MoDOT will be able to get that process completed. Then we can look at maybe making some improvements on that road. Because I hate to make improvements and then just have it get washed away.
Understandable, yeah. Yeah. Signage downtown, a lot of these things are kind of in the works because of the national parks, about signage, about coming up with some kind of plan for a walkway or somewhere to get tourists from St. Mary's Road to downtown and back again. So some of those things are you know, progress is slow, but at least it's progress, it's working. But Candy mentioned an app or a QR code that would be kind of neat. And I don't know enough about that to even talk about it, except that it seems like a good idea.
I live in the next county down, sorry.
Well, when you moving here?
My husband says he doesn't want to live in the city, he calls this the city.
Oh,
Compared to where we live, yeah. I was going through Perryville the other day, and up on one of the digital billboards, it said, check out our new app. And so I downloaded it, and it's got everything on it from paying your utility bills to parks and recreation, shops, restaurants. It's just a really nice app, talks about the culture and whatever. And so all you got to do is click on whatever you want to do. If I want to pay my water bill, so the little bullets are pay utilities, recreation, registration, what's showing at the theater, tourism events, agendas and minutes, report a concern, jobs, schedule an inspection.
So is that, you think, a city of Perryville app? Or
Yes.
a Perry County app?
Yeah, I think it just says Perryville, Missouri, so I'm sure if you're in the county, you can, but like when I click on tourism, everything pops up that, you know, so like the museums they've got down there, the Vietnam Wall, German culture, all that sort of thing. So that all pops up. Then you can click on eat, this thing that says eat, and all the restaurants will pop up. But then the other idea I had, if this is like too much right now, because I looked at the very bottom to see who made this, powered by Element 74. Somebody said that's who did Chamber of Commerce's website. Is that right, Toby?
Right, they did chamber. I'm not sure if they do their website for them or I talked to the city people down there, and they steered me to the company, what is it called?
Civic Plus,
Civic Plus?
yeah, they do their website.
Okay.
Okay.
And he gave me some figures that they spend about $6,700 for the development part of it, and then they pay a $6,000 a year annual fee to kind of keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also looked at, talked with another company that I'll talk with later this week called Visit Widgets LLC, and they do apps that are strictly tourism
Right.
marketing, so.
So you wouldn't have to do, like, have everything on
Pay the
there, like the
bills.
jobs and schedule your, to pay your
Yeah.
utility bill, but if we just wanted to start out with a few, you know, like the tourism, that sort of thing.
QRs and audio tours. And
Right, and the other idea I was kicking around, and I don't really know what I'm talking about either, I just know they're everywhere, and that's QR codes. And in the summertime, when it's so hot, and we know people are getting out and walking around town in the evening when it's not quite so hot, and they're looking at all of these historic buildings and stuff, if there's a QR code on the front of, you know, my cabin, or on the front of the Bolduc house, or on the front of, you know, Felix Valley, whatever, and all they gotta do is scan that, after hours, it'll just tell them a little bit about that building, a little bit of the history, and a lot of times it piques people's interest, they wanna go back, they wanna go in the next day and actually take a tour. So the QR codes, I don't think would be that difficult to get. I mean, like I could get my own for my own properties. Because I have the Brooks house, that's a historic house. It's got a really cool story that needs to be told. And then the cabin, I could tell where the cabin came from and what, you know. And that's, it gives people something to do in the evening when they're walking around looking at these historic buildings. Everybody's got a phone, and all they got to do is scan that QR code.
Is that an app that allows you to, enables you to?
You
read
have to
that?
download an app on your phone that'll scan QR codes, but it's a
Well,
free.
so what are the
Unless
restaurants
you have an
do?
iPhone,
Mhm.
then your camera just scans it.
Yeah, the camera does it, okay,
Mhm.
because the restaurants up and saying, well, the menus are all, you know,
Oh, yeah,
they say,
okay.
here's the menu.
So on the other end, you have to have a developer that creates the QR code that's
You can do it
specific.
online.
Yeah, those can be cheaper. Yeah, they're fairly inexpensive for QR codes.
Mhm.
It's, the developer's gotta be the one who links the code to,
Your
it
websites
could be
and
a
all that
website,
stuff.
or if you're having a one-stop audio tour or something like that, then you have someone to steer it to that particular place on the website, on the internet, so.
But anybody can get a QR code.
Yeah. And ideally, if it was a program that people want to do, you can get them all in bulk cheaply enough and
Mhm.
have them available for everybody.
I like that idea.
I like the idea.
Mhm.
Well, I like both of them. I mean, you know, just a.
Because everybody, we
Yeah,
all,
everybody has a phone.
we all do this, you know?
Will that work on Sarah's flip phone?
Probably not. I'm pretty old school technology.
Old time.
Old time, yeah,
And I
yeah.
wish we were, but that's just not the way anybody's going, so if we're gonna keep up with the times.
Well, that's the direction you gotta go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's absolutely, you're not, you're gonna get left in the dust.
And we don't wanna leave, you know, the 30-somethings, we don't wanna leave them out, and they
No.
will go somewhere where they can do all of this,
I
you
mean,
know?
they got
they're-
kids can help navigate it,
Yeah,
you know.
Plus, it's minimum signage on the properties, so
right,
it's not disruptive to the
right.
aesthetics,
Mm-hmm,
and it's easy, inexpensive to do.
mm-hmm. You could even put them on your brochures, like Toby did on our new brochure that he just had made.
It could be done with all the shops
Mm-hmm.
and historic sites, yeah.
I like that.
I like it, so what do we do if we like it? How do
Exactly.
how do we move
What
forward?
do we now?
Now what do we do?
Now what do we do? How do we get them their codes?
So you still on the back end are gonna have to have somebody record what they're looking at.
Right.
You know, besides scanning it, it has to go somewhere to say, and this house was built in 1876 and was, you know, eventually burned down twice, but hey, they rebuilt, whatever. So, you know, we would also have to get that production done.
Yeah,
I think, well, there's a couple different things. One is, I'm hoping to hear what Happy learns from the federal government money that might be coming down.
Tourism money, potentially?
Yeah, because, I mean, that'd be a contactless way to see things without risking spreading virus. I'm not sure how much concern there'll be down the road on that kind of thing, but also help us get this kind of thing going with technology. So that might be a possibility with that. Otherwise, I think we're probably looking at the next budget year of trying to wind all this stuff together with, one of my goals was to look at the tourism website after we get through the print products in this year, and then figure out what we want to do with major website overhaul, and that could include something like this in terms of app, building out an app on top of it. So,
The other flip side of this QR code thing or whatever is Gettysburg Battlefield did a survey of people, because they have like audio tours and stuff. You go in and you get a CD and a program guide and you drive through the battlefield because it's huge. And they found that through a survey, 55% of people wanted a guided tour, but 45% wanted a self-tour. So it's almost a 50-50 split for people that want to be guided around, and then the ones who don't, who just want to do it on their own time, you know, without a guide. So that's something to consider too. Not everybody wants a guided tour. I mean, I know we like to give guided tours, but
Right.
not
Right.
every, and now that and this was before COVID, you know, that they did this survey. So now there are still people who are leery of being in groups and being in a tour setting that would be more apt to do something like this versus,
Well, and as you said,
I got it
after
too.
hours, it's a great.
and after hours, yeah, when it's cool in the evening, you know, and you want, and everything closes at 5 as far as our shops and things, and so the only thing open is bars and restaurants, and so St. Genevieve is like the coolest town to walk in the evening. You just feel like you've gone back in time as soon as the sun goes down, and so to do that and be able to scan a little barcode on a house and learn about it as you're walking, strolling through town is just almost a no-brainer. But how do we get the codes?
the codes, the problem is that, like I said, it's where those codes direct you to and building all that out, whether it's going to be an audio tour or audio and text or even video, you can do anything these days. But, my goal is to get some pricing on it. I'm going to talk with this one company on Friday. And none of them are going to be particularly cheap.
Right.
The codes are cheap, but then steering it and setting up the tour part of it is the expensive part. So, and then operating it through an app or whatever for perpetuity. But I'll get some pricing on it, and like I said, it might be something where if we're able to look at some of the funding that comes down from the federal program, or if we look at putting it into the budget for 2022 after when we get to the fall. So.
All right, terrific. Well, that's, I think, encouraging.
And I've put on there the notes from a 2017 meeting. That some of it obviously is still things that come up today, and those were some of the things that were discussed at that meeting, listed there for your consideration. If there are other things that you want to revisit or want to check up on to see if there's updates that need to be made, or I know Lawrence had mentioned about the utilities, and that was something that had come up 4 years ago as well. Probably takes a lot of coordination since you're talking to different companies like Citizens, and I'm not sure what else is up on those lines. I had to talk to Happy about that a little bit today as well, about some of the difficulties with trying to move them from up in the air to under the roads.
Yeah, I like going out Market Street there on both sides of the street. Yeah. Well, nobody thought about putting them underground in 1930.
No. Any other ideas or things we want to discuss off the? Now, you said you had a well-connected political person who.
Mildly connected, I said. You know, and the question was, what do you need help on the most? So that's why I put it out there. You know, and I said, well, maybe river access, but, you know, you'd have to beat up the railroad to do that.
Or take over the marina.
Or, yeah, well, I think, I don't think there's any, I don't think there's any hope of taking over the marina anytime soon.
One of the other things actually, not on the list, but is something that needs to be worked on, and that's something we can do with the help of the National Park Service, I believe, is the town movie that's shown in the Welcome Center. was produced in, I'm not sure what year, it goes back a ways. And that's something we're looking at revamping and updating. The people from Southeast Missouri State who did the original film, Professor Dufek is coming to town on March 29th, and we're going to meet, and Cappy's going to be able to meet with them, and Chris and I, and talk with them about what we can do to update that film or produce a new version of it and kind of what that'll cost. And there is a possibility of being able to work with MPS on the funding for that. And he didn't think that any of the film that they'd shot the first time around would be usable this time just because of the differences in technology these days. So they probably have to shoot the whole thing from scratch. But we'll talk to him and get a better idea. I know he kind of had some ballpark dollar figures that were also pretty pricey, but we'll look into that further and see if we can partner with the National Park Service on something like that. That's all I had on those things.
One other thing, what about Front Street, connecting Front Street to St. Mary's? So you don't have to go under the railroad trestle.
Oh, from a driving standpoint?
Yeah. It'd be nice to get the trucks to use an alternative route so they're not going through downtown.
I had one backing up this week already.
Yeah. It's expensive.
Yeah,
But it'd be nice.
the board has to dedicate money for engineering on something like that, just to see what that cost is.
It's a good idea. I mean, I walk down there all the time, and it's not very far.
Yeah, it's not very
Not very far.
But it does include crossing the body of water.
Right, and
Well,
that's gonna be,
yeah.
that'll be regulated by Corps of Engineers,
Yeah.
and we'll be through that process, but
We'll see what the RTCA group that works with national parks on trails and sidewalks and things, they're certainly be looking at a way to connect that area on St. Mary's Road with the downtown. I think that's probably the primary plan that they want to look at is how to do that. So that at least would cover the walking part of it, and then I'm not sure if it'll have any component for motorists or not, but we can bring that. Our first meeting with them is going to be April 6th, I think Chris mentioned. So when the stakeholders are meeting, he's going to have an RTCA representative here, or on Zoom at least, to talk about how all that works and kick off that planning process for the sidewalk study, which also will include, he's been working with the University of Missouri, that they would probably do a survey of visitors and visitor use to help inform that proposal of whatever comes out of how people walk or travel through town. And that could also be something that we were able to get some good information from a tourism standpoint as well. So that'll be part of the process either later this year into next year. They could be doing some surveying of visitors to help both projects, actually, to help the RTCA Trails project and also help us from a tourism standpoint.
Okay, very good.
What was the hospitality training about? This was before my time. What was that about, hospitality training?
I think that's, it had happened in the past, and it's happened a couple times. At one point, the Missouri Humanities sponsored workshops and another, and it was just to encourage people, shop owners, wait staff in restaurants, other people, to encourage them how to give directions, how to answer questions, how to greet people when they come to town. It was a lot of common sense stuff, and there wasn't anything bad about it. And so I don't know if there's any interest in doing that again, or making sure everybody has at least a little bit of understanding about St. Genevieve history if tourists ask, like, how do I get to the river kind of questions. What do you tell people? Or how old is this building? Or how do I get to, the pewter shop or whatever.
Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to maybe do a little workshop on it again for those of us who didn't grow up here.
Right.
I mean, I know how to tell people where to get to other places and whatever, but my history is sketchy as far as individual things.
Right.
So, I would be interested in,
And another thing that we have done in the past and have not for a few years, and typically we did it in an evening, but anybody that wanted to go, shop owners, employees, we just took a tour and went downtown and visited all the shops, just so you have an idea. If somebody says, golly, there was a fellow in the shop last summer, and he said, I'm stuck in town and I didn't plan to be stuck in town. Where can I go buy some shorts? I can't wear long pants for the next 3 days. And I said, yeah, I don't know, maybe Tractor Supply? And I couldn't even think. And, I guess maybe, Dollar General, or I didn't think to say that. But we have just sort of visited all the shops and the places downtown, just so everybody had a clue what was available. And we used to do that in an evening. We haven't done it for a couple of years. Just sort of take a little walking tour, have a glass of wine or some ice cream or some candy every time we go in someplace.
that would be fun. I'd like to do that again.
So there isn't any reason why we can't do that, We could probably get, we could even open, a couple of historic homes. I don't know about the Felix Valley. I'm sure we could open the Beadmore Valley so people could get in and see it.
That's the only one I have never had the chance to go visit.
Well, come on,
I
go
need to
visit it.
visit the Beadmore, I know. I'm in my own shop all the time, and whatever I've done, they're done. So, that's one of those things I just never can get around to.
But if people were interested in doing that, we could set a date tonight and do it and go visit some places. If you want to do that, and we could even, have contact shop owners that are not here or businesses that are not here and invite them to go along if you want to do that. Set a date, or if you want to go home and look at your calendars and even at the April meeting, we can maybe discuss when we could do that.
Okay.
Is there a day of the week that would work for people, or evening of the week, I guess?
Probably earlier in the week, the better. Like a Monday or Tuesday, Or even a Sunday evening, I don't know.
Monday or Tuesday.
Monday or Tuesday?
But that's the kind of hospitality training that we have done in the past. And if there's some other kind of hospitality training that we should be doing, we probably should do it.
You get you get tourists to pull in and you get asked a lot of questions and you just don't want to get caught flat-footed and not give, I don't want to just, I tell everybody to go to the Welcome Center.
That's why I tell them. Someone just told me.
I do. I get out my little map and I'm like, okay, here's where you are. This is how you get to the Welcome Center. And there's everything up there that you need to know.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's nice, especially now that I've got people staying next door to me, I could kind of tell them a little bit more about.
Give them a brochure.
Give them a brochure,
And sometimes people just want to chat.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Or how do you feel about this restaurant, or how do you feel about this house, or, they want to know what you think about these places, which I think they're all great, but, be nice to take a little tour. I think it's overdue.
Yep.
I know it is for the shop owners. How many shops have changed
Yeah.
that we don't even know what each other is selling? And so if somebody's like, do you have a such and such? No, I always tell them to go to Kelly, or, because she's got like a little bit of everything, but it would be nice to know what everybody's got, so you know how to direct their question or tell them where to go.
Well, we can certainly make that happen if we just go around and visit every place.
And Cheryl, bring the ice cream.
I will, yeah. Well, we can end there. We can just all eat.
There you go.
Anything else on the list of things for tourism? Move on to the new business then.
Yeah. Yes. Under new business, and this one's Toby's.
So there's a proposal that actually will ask the Tourism Tax Commission to look at some financing for, but not very much financing. Been talking with the water park and the museum people about putting together a discount card, kind of similar to a passport card. Be a simple postcard, one feature on one side, one on the other. Have a perforation so that could be used for a discount for admission to both of those locations. And we're going to talk about different ways to distribute, how many we would look to distribute. I think it's going to be a kind of small scale program that will run just through the lodging establishments, so that someone who stays at one of the lodging establishments would be able to purchase a card for $1 and be able to use that card to get a discount admission per ticket at the water park and the museum. So originally, as of last week, I was thinking of putting lots of these things, because one of the places is very interested in having as many cards out there as possible so we get visitors. There's other places that have different revenue models and want kind of a more controlled situation in terms of how many free cards are out there. So this is a way to kind of limit that and run it as a program this year to see how effective it is. The goal on our end is to be able to put it on our Visit St. John website to say, if you go stay at a hotel, you can purchase this card. That will give you a discount for the water park and the museum. None of the graphics or information on there is finalized, so both places will create their own graphics and also their own idea of what they want to do a discount, if they want to do a dollar amount per ticket or a percentage off, or however they want to handle that. But it'll pretty much be valid for the summer as the water park is open, so talking about 3.5 weeks or 3.5 months rather time period. Probably would only print up to 200 cards and make those available through Microtel and Triangle and all the lodgings that wanted to participate in the program. So that's what that is all about, if anybody has any questions on it.
Why do you need $200?
I don't. I think they're probably $50.
Okay, I was like, I did the math and it's not $200
Right.
for 200 cards,
No.
so that's why I was confused.
I was just looking to, and originally I thought clicking a couple thousand, thought we might be printing
Sure.
a couple thousand of these things, but like I said, we're probably going to ratchet it down to a very small level. And the reason we go through tax commission is because something is going to encourage overnight stays and be available through the lodgings.
Sure. And then the lodging places are selling these, or?
They would collect $1 for the card,
Okay.
and then the $1 would help offset the discount for the places.
So then that dollar is going to the museum or the water park?
Yes.
Okay.
And so you would be in charge of distributing the card, collecting the
Tracking
money,
them,
then
numbering them, all that.
distributing it back out. That's something you're comfortable doing on
Yeah.
a small, on
It's
a
a pretty
small
small
scale.
program,
It's
yeah.
not a huge issue. Okay.
And maybe in the future it'll be a bigger program. If there are more people or more places interested. So. Any other questions on it? Okay. Next on the list I have was a visitor's guide, which is a booklet that will replace our huge foldout that we had in the past. Kind of what I'm looking for in terms of feedback and input is how to handle lodging establishments, shops, dining, and some of the locations outside the city that were not all of them were included in the past. We did have the hiking and recreation trails, and we had the wineries would be part of the booklet in the past. My thought was just to get input on what we think about the antique mall as a business in comparison with wineries, the golf course, something like Batesy Farms, and then the lodgings. We have the traditional, the Microtel, Triangle, Main Street Inn, Dr. Herdick's, and White Cliff have been included in the brochures in the past. But nowadays you have a lot of Airbnbs. You have the Chalmette Villas. So just kind of looking for feedback about where to draw lines in terms of that booklet. If anyone had any thoughts or
I think it makes it look like we have more to offer.
to make it larger.
Yeah. Could we also get the county to help chip in if we're advertising for the county?
The county does contribute some money to the city's tourism marketing efforts at the currently.
And how many pages are you expecting this to be? It says you've outlined the first 15 pages.
Yeah.
Is that all it is 15
Oh, no,
pages?
no, no, that's
Okay.
why, I mean, obviously, the more you include,
Right,
the more pages you're looking at. I mean, we could
Right.
probably get up to, probably close to 32 or so.
So would we pay for a space in this booklet? Like if I wanted to advertise my B&B, would I pay you something for
Well,
that?
that's kind of, no, it's no, currently we don't do it that way.
Okay.
They're not
Um,
ads,
so it's not
just
gonna be an
lists of prices.
advertising,
It's a listing,
okay.
Right. Currently, the way it, like, the brochure in the past has been, and I'm not sure it included Airbnbs in the past. I think it included Triangle, Microtel, and then Main Street, Dr. Hurdick White Cliff. It had in St. John Beauvais and Southern Hotel, and those traditional B&Bs. It didn't have the Airbnbs. So that's kind of, there are a ton of
Yes,
Airbnbs out
there
there.
are.
And I don't know if we want to list them all, just list them, or,
Maybe list them and have a QR code for that.
Great.
So people can check it out.
Well, how long do you see this, is it something is redone every year, or every 3 years, or what's the time?
it's been, the last time we did the visitor's guide, it's probably 2.5 to 3 years. And I think ideally they do it every 2 years or so. Which actually, to go backward a little bit, on the big list of ideas in the world, I know Kelly's talked about a magazine-style booklet that would include advertising potential. It's a little more expensive, but it could also be done more frequently too. And once you have a template in place, you take something like the Wear magazines that you get at the hotels or whatever, once you've got that template in place, you could reproduce it more easily, more frequently.
You could do it like at seasonal, like a spring, summer, fall, winter.
Yeah. And the thing is, at the moment, we're just making a large transition from the little fold-out thing that probably would equate to 16 pages at this size to, if we start putting in a lot of material, we could make this a big piece. It's, 32-page booklet would translate to a 16-page magazine, which is still a pretty sizable piece. And the one thing I'm reluctant about using the magazine size have been for this project is mailing costs and distribution costs are higher if my booklet is taking up more space on the racks. So probably all these CTM prices that we're looking at for, those are standard 4x9 spaces. If you take that to double to a magazine size, you're probably going to double the price on all those too.
So is this replacing the visitor guide? So will they have a map that they can carry
We can
around?
put a map, we can fold out a map in the tail end of it, yep.
Okay.
Which also, I mean, the thing with maps, like the downtown guides that we have for this year, those should get us into the summertime, but already we've got Kay's turning back to Buddy's place since for the printing.
Right.
And then we're adding a bakery downtown, and I think there, possibly another boutique, I guess, downtown. I think there's even something else that's changing out, so the hard part about print things is they get old pretty quick. So you guys want me to push ahead and make it very large and go from there if we want to scale it down. So put everything in we can put in.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then the last thing I have on this list for the new business stuff is just a brief list of some advertising options that have come up for the spring. And actually looking ahead into the next budget year. The search engine marketing is something we've done in the past. We discontinued it last year. I thought it was kind of a pricey program for what we were getting out of it. Again, it's something the state does match money on too, but it's essentially more keyword searches, which we do have some keyword through Google Ads. This is a supplemental program. It's a little more robust. It was gave us a 10% jump roughly in our website traffic over the time frame that we had it. Nicole mentioned about a lot of vacant billboards she saw on I-55 coming up, which I think other people have noticed as well. I believe when I grabbed some information last year or so for billboards, Lamar had 3 of those locations coming northbound on 55, where the lowest monthly rate was $550 per month on those billboards, and they are in that stretch between Perryville and here. And then Drury Southwest has a billboard in that stretch also. Theirs was $425 per month at that time on a 12-month lease. And then those all include, you're going to be paying for your production costs as well, anywhere from $500 to $1,000 to produce the vinyls. So something if we want to look at with billboards moving forward in the future. And then put 3 print publications that have contacted me. Actually, the one on here I think is probably kind of interesting to pursue is 9 PBS Magazine. That goes to 40,000 members of KETC Channel 9 in St. Louis, the public broadcasting station up there. They have a magazine, and they have the low-end pricing is a 1/6 of a page ad, which is $500. USA Today also is going to have an upcoming travel section that they distribute 100,000 copies of, and St. Louis Magazine has a summer fun planner in May, but they actually just gave me a media kit today, and they're going to follow up with a phone call next week to give me information on that. But I do want to get any thoughts and input on using the Channel 9 PBS Magazine or the USA Today travel guides, if anyone has any thoughts.
Well, Channel 9, their audience is a pretty good audience.
Yes.
I mean, they're in the history.
Yeah, they're people.
How many would go out?
They send them to 40,000 members, so these are people who contribute to Channel 9.
And those stick around because they've got their broadcast guide and things like that, so I mean,
Yeah.
people keep hanging on to those for a while on the coffee table or wherever.
Haven't we advertised with them before as far as to promote the fundraiser things? So didn't they generally do that in the past?
I can't answer that.
Before my time. I haven't run across that in the...
Not that I recall,
The
but
Main Street Inn is doing that.
yeah. And Jour de Fête has done TV advertising, but not on Channel 9, I don't think.
And the USA Today, is that a national thing or is it?
It's a regional. They do it by regions, yeah. And I don't know their distribution or how their paper is even being distributed much these days. I know it's not as prevalent as it used to be on news racks. So it would be a Midwest only 10 states that there would be sent out in. So average, you're talking 10,000 people over 10 states. Probably more. We'll lean toward the Channel 9 one and probably hold off on USA Today.
I would lean toward the Channel 9 one if it were my decision to make.
Seems like our target audience.
Which it isn't.
You're one of the people. And that's all I have on the new business. So that takes us to a couple items for the tax commission to vote on.
TTC has to vote, yeah.
And the first item is with the discount postcards, and I would want to knock that down. So if I could get a motion for up to $200, and I can let you know what the bids are going to come in at. Hopefully I'll track those down this week. I've got 5 people that can do perforated postcards, and I'll have some numbers from them, and I can pass those along, but most of them looking to be able to do it at a number of less than $200.
So you need a motion? A motion. You would?
Have a motion and a second. All right. And then all those in favor? Opposed? All right, and then the next item is the CTM Distribution, which I handed you a sheet on those. I did one, actually. So this is the company that currently handles our rack cards and other information. And they've changed some things around, which I made a note on. I know we discontinued one of the programs in the St. Louis City last year, and then what they ended up doing is combining the programs so that it's hitting businesses, which we discontinued, and St. Louis area attractions. And so they roll those in together. They're charging $100 a month on that. I don't know if we had in the past done 8-month agreements with them. She will give us these prices in this top area for anything greater than 4 months. If we do 6 months, that takes us through the end of our budget year, and then we would, if we do a renewal, we'd be looking at doing that in the next budget in October.
Did we stop doing it because of COVID? We thought that people weren't going to be...
Yeah, the businesses weren't getting...
So do we feel that that's back to normal? Or?
My feeling is, I don't know what St. Louis is going to look like in terms of their tourism this year still, and how many people are going to businesses still. I mean, I think the I-44 program, we did 55 last year, so those two I think are still ones we'd want to pursue. I don't know if you want to add in the I-70 in Illinois.
We're getting a lot of Illinois people, because they can't do anything anymore.
Right.
So, I mean, I'd rather do Illinois than downtown St. Louis.
Mm-hmm. So if we did those 3 programs, we're looking at $325 a month. Which for 6 months would be $19.50. Is that?
And we have like $13,000 in our budget. I don't know if we can afford it.
I think the 8-month program was about 3,200, was it? I think. So we had an additional, we did have an additional route in St. Louis. So is that, you're going to do the 3 routes for $19.50 for 6 months?
Yeah, I think.
All right, if I can get a motion on that.
Make a motion.
Second.
And all those in favor? All those opposed? All right, so it's I-70, I-44, and I-55 for $19.50 for 6 months. The last item I have is below that there's pricing for a 2-month piece, which would just be going out for a short time because it's the events card, which I've got in the other room. So the event card has events that are taking place in St. Genevieve that we knew of as of early February, and it runs through June of this year on one side, then it has some highlighted events on the back side. They will distribute those for us for 2 months, April and May, at the pricing which is listed here below. And for some reason they're going kind of high on the St. Louis one on that one, but I don't know if we want to do Illinois with that or not, or if we want to just keep it more localized. The prices for Illinois, Missouri, and I-44 Missouri and I-55 Missouri are the same as they would be for the long-term program. So she's cutting us a discount for that short term, because they can run both pieces out at the same time. And that would let travelers know what's going on in St. Genevieve in the spring.
Is there a reason why you went to the enameled paper?
No.
They're slick and they
They are.
slide off
They
the
are
counter.
They look better, but they are.
They do look nice, but
They're slippery.
they won't stack. I guess if you had a rack, they would be okay, but they slide off the counter.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a surprise. Actually, we have some from them that are flat, not glossy.
Yeah.
And then they're too sticky, so you grab like 3 of them, and the other ones, they're slippery, so. A learning process. Next time we'll get it right in the middle. So any thoughts on doing that?
So what you're recommending is not doing the St. Louis one and doing the other ones, or?
We could do the same 3 routes, or, I don't know.
The St. Louis is a lot more expensive, so.
Right, yeah.
Nicole, what do you think?
I'm fine with just trying the I-44 and the I-55 for the
For the
2
event
months
cards?
and see
All
what
right.
happens if you can, ask people questions when you come to the Welcome Center.
How they heard about them?
Mhm.
Yeah. That would be $500 for
Yeah.
2 months.
Yeah.
All right. Got a motion on that?
Motion to do it.
And a second?
One second.
And all in favor? And all opposed? All right. Any other business for the board?
Any business from either group? Okay, there being no further business, the meeting stands adjourned. Thank you very much. See you